Good evening, Greg Countryman's Diary podcast. Tonight, our special guest is known as Robin Foxer. He's on YouTube, all your social medias, and he's a damn nice guy. Good evening, Robin.
Good evening. I'm not sure about the last part, but thank you very much for that nice introduction.
Well, it goes downhill from here, so
It does. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah. No, thank you very much for taking the time to have me on. It's a pleasure.
that's okay.
I'm sure we'll waffle on and bore people to tears as we go.
Quite possibly, young man. Right, I've heard in our little warm-up chat, you might have to go looking for a fox that Team Foxer gets rid of.
Yeah, so I've in fact I had a message from the keeper today asking me if I can get out because it's finally stopped raining. We've had an immense amount of rain so far this week. I'm pretty certain on the rain gauges at work it said we'd had somewhere in the region of 70 mil. So I don't think the land's going to travel particularly well, but yeah, Steve also swear a lot as he's more affectionately known to myself and a few others. Yeah, messaged me to say that he'd been out and he's seen plenty of fox feeding in some of the muddy puddles in and around the farm. Can I get out? And I said, well, actually, I can't because I've got something rather important to do this evening. So I have shunned him for your good self.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
I'm not
Yeah,
that special on you,
yeah.
mate.
That's not what I've heard.
Careful, careful. I can understand. I'm only going to push the
Yeah,
button.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, so I hear you hail from not so sunny Lincolnshire, young man.
That's correct. Yeah, so I'm right in the south tip of Lincolnshire. As my missus would say, she's a northerner. She would say we're a cock stride away from North Norfolk, and we're really only a stone's throw away from North Cambridgeshire as well. So it's not that uncommon. Certainly, if I go out with Rick, for us to cover three counties when we're out shooting. So yeah, that's where I hail from. It's flat. It's a lovely part of the world, really. I quite like living around here. It's relatively quiet, low crime rates and all the other good stuff that comes along with that. It has its challenges, don't get me wrong, but it's a nice area to live in. We have a lot of great partridge shooting land, and that's what keeps me rather busy when I'm not out in the fields for my day job. Yeah.
And what is your day job, sir?
Well, my day job covers a multitude of things, really. I suppose for a lot of people, my day job is a little bit like Cheerful Charlie on Clarkson's farm. My job essentially is to keep plants healthy and write spray plans for the sprayman and order chemical for the farm and ensure we're compliant, etc., etc. And then I do lots of other stuff. Yesterday I was building some shelves in the chemical store, so I can turn my hand to many things. Not very well, but I will give it a damn good go.
I
I
think
can
we're all like
drive.
that.
I can drive the vast majority of the farm equipment. So yeah, I've used to drive the sprayer on the farm, so I've got a bit of spraying background and stuff. And that's a world apart from what I was doing just a few years ago. So I was actually selling cars for Nissan a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's a complete change of job.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I can
yeah.
understand if you sold farm machinery, but to actually operate it and drive it is a big step, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my introduction into farming. Before prior to that, so I spent 2 years working for Nissan, and prior to that, I'd spent over 20 years in retail. So again, although selling cars was, is in the retail sector, it was very different to essentially what is and was shop work really. But my introduction to farming really was in at the deep end. So I took redundancy from my retail position think what, about 5 years ago maybe, and I thought I wanted to give the videoing my fullest attention, and thought I don't have to rush out and get a job. I was earning a little bit of money from YouTube and stuff, so I thought, all right, I don't have to go and get a proper job. But somebody had asked, because I think it was this sort of time of year. Well, it must have been because they were lifting tates on a nearby farm, and someone put a post on Facebook saying, "Does anyone want sort of 4 or 5 weeks work? Helping us drive the tatey carting vehicles around the farm." And I was like, well, I've just been made redundant. I'm not doing a fat lot at the minute. I'll give that a go. So I messaged him back and said, yeah, I've just been made redundant. I can help you out if you wish. I don't have any experience, but I'm willing to give it a go. And he said, okay, can you be here in half an hour? So I said, yeah. So I rocked up at the farm. He gave me a high-vis jacket. Asked me again if I'd driven a tractor before. I said no. He said, right, wait there. And a couple of minutes later, he pulled back into the yard in a big case tractor with a great big trailer on the back, and said, right, get in. This is your gears. This is how it works. I did a few circuits around the farmyard, and then within the hour, I was in the field next to the tatey lifter, the standard tatey lifter, filling up with potatoes and taking them back to the farm. And that was my introduction into farming. So, yeah.
That's an introduction and a half, that was.
It is, yeah. And if anyone's ever been to rural Lincolnshire, much like many other parts of the world, the roads around here are barely wide enough for a car. So if you've never driven a tractor and trailer before, and you're all of a sudden down a country lane and you meet a car coming the other way, it's quite a nervous place to be. So, yeah. Yeah, good fun. It was. I really enjoyed it though. It was the first time that I'd had a job where I didn't have to deal with customers, and that was a rather refreshing thing for me. So yeah, I loved it. And then so transitioned from that into once that position came to an end. Again, I sort of went back to making a few videos and just generally pigging about. But the missus got a bit too fed up with me being around the house, so she said, "You're going to have to go and get a proper job," as she called it. So yeah, hence the reason I got into the car trade. But then I thought to myself, do you know what? I was at the time I must have been approaching 40. I'm now 43, so yeah, I turned 40, and I just thought to myself, I've still got another 20 odd years worth of work, really. So I need to do something that I want to do. Life's not all about earning loads of money. Money's really good in the car trade. I was earning good money, so I actually took a pay cut initially to go into farming, but I did it because I wanted a better work-life balance. So getting into farming probably wasn't the best thing actually, because in the summer months, boy, do we put some hours in. But it's weird. 60 plus hours a week maybe on the farm. It doesn't feel as bad as 30 plus hours in a shop. I can tell you that. It's a different kind of environment.
Yeah.
You've got pressures and stuff, of course you have, but they're just completely different. And on a nice day when the sun's beaming and you're surrounded by wildlife, and it's a beautiful place to be. We have fantastic sunrises, beautiful sunsets. So yeah, I really enjoy my job. So I'm so pleased I changed. I really wish I'd done it years ago. But like I said, I've still got 20 odd years left. If I make it that far, I've still got 20 odd years left worth at work. So we'll still see if I'm so chipper in a few years' time about it all. But yeah, that's what I do. I do agronomy is the title of my job, but it covers many different aspects on the farm.
Yeah, so I grew up as dad was an ex-farmer. He became farm sales machinery representative. Oh, I reckon he must have been about 36, something like that. I came along when I was another marriage, so I came along when he was pushing about 45. And so I grew up with all the farmers and all the machinery and stuff like this. And you had all these lovely glossy brochures in his boots and boxes. I think we weighed it one day. There was about 30, 40 kilos just in each box of all these brochures from Case and Converland and Clothes and all that of it. And it soon added up. But farmers, you've never seen such a mix. You get your farmers who are, I suppose, your gentleman farmer, come in, sit down, crack a bottle of porter or whiskey open, and we'll discuss business. And then you get your rural farmers, and then you get your farmers where the farmer's wife has to make you something to eat first. And then you get the farmers where even he struggled to understand some of the Cornish farmers right down near Penzance and stuff. We went to a farm one day. I remember it vividly. The man walked with a limp, and it turns out just after the first conventional balers came out in the 60s, he didn't understand about the PTO shaft and everything else because it was all new, and ended up catching his trouser leg in with the PTO, and it cut his leg off at the knee. He crawled back into the tractor and drove back to the farm for the farmer's wife to then take him to hospital with his half leg in tow, and they couldn't do anything, so he stuck a prosthetic on. And I didn't understand a word he said. He was proper deep Cornish because I'm from the east of Cornwall, up near Devon side. And I said to Dad, "Did you understand?" He went, "Not really, but I've sold him a tractor." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Because he gave me a check."
Flipping it. Yeah,
Yeah,
they.
but the farmers, there's the old joke about farmers. If you see one turn up at an emergency room, it's really serious, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, in fact, Rick, my very good friend Rick, who I've been best mates with for a good number of years, and another one of my shooting partners who's features regularly on my foxing YouTube videos. Uh, Yesterday, he had to go home ill from work, and you know it's quite bad. So, yeah, it turns out he's got blocked urethra and kidney stones, and is in quite a bad way, and they need to operate on him. So, but he's been at work. He's actually the gamekeeper on our farm, so he's been lifting bags of corn and stuff all week and moaning he's a bit sore around his back and stuff, and he's just been cracking on and getting on, and yeah. Yesterday he was doubled over in pain, and they now need to operate on him fairly promptly. So they're normally made of pretty stern stuff, but it's such an inherently dangerous place around the farm. You can see why
Yeah,
there are so many accidents and stuff. Um, I cut myself on my shin almost down to the bone just a few weeks ago, and that's just a simple slip. I slipped on a set of discs, and I was trying to see if there was any bearings that needed changing and stuff. But yeah, it's an inherently dangerous place. You can see why so many people have some really nasty accidents and stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, you don't really think about it at the time, but certainly it was a big eye opener for me going into it. And I keep getting told as well. It's so nice by so many different people. I've been to a lot of different meetings and met lots of different people in terms of the farm. We're trying to diversify and modernise and take on new initiatives in terms of soil management, rotation, etc., etc., etc. So many, and I generally meet people that have spent their entire lives and their whole careers in that industry, and it's very rare they tell me that they'll meet somebody that's with my background, which is zero background in farming. My dad wasn't a farmer; he worked on the land when I was young. But nobody I know in my family's been into farming. I didn't grow up in it, around it as such. I started bush beating, as we call it here, beating when I was at school, maybe 12, 13. I got invited by some of the other kids whose dads were into it, and that's really how my interest in shooting sort of began, really. So yeah, but yeah, I'm told time and time again so far that it's quite refreshing to have new people into the industry, and we need to attract more people in, and so on and so forth. So I know that David
the
Wright from
sad
Field
part
Sports
is,
Britain.
yeah,
Sorry, I was just about to say I know that he has another channel dedicated to farming, which is actually pretty good. So
yeah.
that's a good insight, I think, and he covers lots of new topics and stuff. So I'm hoping channels like his, and certainly things like Clarkson's Farm, are good at attracting people into it. You know.
Yeah, there's sadly been increase in, I suppose it'd be third, fourth, and fifth generation farmers who are no longer interested.
Yeah.
They look at their parents, their grandparents who are still like 70, 80, still working 60, 70 hours a week because that's what they've done. And they think, you know what, there's a better life. I know of a young man who could have took help take on the family farm. He's become a policeman. I know several young farmers who have gone to university and gone completely in a different direction towards farming. And it's sad in one sense, but you can see why they're doing it in another.
Yeah, certainly. I think for small scale farmers, I can see, I've seen and I do see the kind of certainly the financial struggles and stuff, and I'm led to believe it's only been sort of made more difficult since we left the European Union, of course, as well. This is all sort of prior to my tenure on the farm, but um, I guess our operation is fairly large in comparable to a lot of farms around the UK, but and even even we have our sort of struggles and woes in the farming world. The weather being the biggest adversary, of course, which this week has definitely proven to be quite tricky.
Yes.
We still got crop in the ground at the moment, which is going to be pretty difficult to get out and harvest. When you've got to put your waders on to go and check it. Um, but
Well,
on the
two
whole,
weeks previous, I was still seeing. Sorry.
I was just about to say, on the whole, on the whole, I would definitely advocate. So for those people that have maybe thought about a career change and getting into farming, you kind of just do it. Do it before it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 weeks ago when we had that sunny spell, I saw farmers out for another cut of silage, would you believe, in the middle of September.
Really.
Yeah. I know
No.
Cornwall's a bit more milder than everywhere else, but another cut of silage is like, bloody hell, how are you going to stick it?
Yeah, so we're all veg around here. It's all veg, potatoes. My farm is quite unique in a sense because we grow salad crops, but yeah, it's all vegetables and potatoes and large amounts of wheat and a fair amount of maize as well. There's a lot of maize still up. We do farm down in Suffolk, which is actually from here. The farm that we're on is in Woodbridge, to about 2.5 hours away from here. But I was there yesterday, and that was dry all day there. Where compared to here, where we had so much rain, it's unreal. The difference that it makes, but that helps us extend our season for an extra couple of weeks. We can grow salads down there because typically it's between 1 to sort of 1.5 degrees warmer, and that makes quite a big difference to us. Like I said, we can extend our growing season. So um, yeah, the just interesting to see how everything down there is done and how it differs from here. The topography of the land. I'm not used to hills, you see. Even in Suffolk, it's quite hilly. So I
Yeah.
get nosebleeds normally when we have to go up a bit of a hill, because it's so flat around here. I'm just not used to it, you see.
No, we have too many hills down in Cornwall and Devon. I think we got your share.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Quite. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I've sometimes have mates come down from. We've got a good friend in North Yorkshire, who very kindly invites me to his shoot every year. In fact, I'm going to visit him on the 21st of December. I think we're booked in, and that is stupendously hilly. You need a really good set of walking boots up there, and I'm normally hanging out my arsehole when I go up there and we walk around that shoot. I'm just so not used to those gradients that they've got. But then when he comes round here and looks through the thermal, he just can't believe how far you can see. because a lot of his land is forestry commission land. So you go up there, and if you see 50 yards, 100 yards, then you're doing really very well indeed. We
Yeah.
have individual fields that are a kilometre long, so you can see a very long way. If you get up high on the Land Rover, you can see a long, long way around here, and he often can't believe just how far you can see.
So, encompassing the shooting, what do you guys do for backstop? Because down here, we've got a hill like every 50 yards, like Yorkshire is. But what do you guys do? Because I've been up that way and there's no hedges. You can just see for miles. How do you guys cope?
Yeah, so we elevated shooting is really the only way you can combat it. So you'd have most likely seen. So I'm shooting off of sticks. We're also quite unique with our soil type as well because we're very heavy silt stroke clay. So it's like
Yeah.
shooting into putty. So unless it's been like we did have an issue a couple of years ago where we had 6 weeks without a single drop of rain. It was the ground was baked solid. It was like concrete. In fact, that same year, myself and Dwayne on the 1st of September went goose shooting, and we had to get a mini digger in to come and dig the holes out. We started trying to dig through it, to dig in. We were on a stubble field after some geese, and we had to get a mini digger in to come and dig the holes in the end because we just couldn't get anywhere. It was like concrete. But generally speaking, we get round it because we have I shoot off the top of the Land Rover, so that's quite high up. So we're shooting down into clay. So if you do miss, then the round's just going to bury itself in some putty like soil. So that's quite safe. And then like you said, you can see for miles. And the beauty with the new technology we've got, I mean, I think for quite some time I believed that night vision was the best way to shoot foxes because ultimately you could see what it was you were shooting. But as thermal technology progressed, I mean, the latest video, there's a fox there that I shot at 190 yards, and you can see as plain as day that it's a fox even at 190 yards, and that was on 26 times zoom. But what thermal does is you can see your line of sight way, way beyond. You can see nearly 2 kilometers past that fox. So you can see if you're in the line of sight with houses, but intimately knowing the land is one factor. I've been shooting in this particular immediate area for well in excess of a decade. So I've shot around it for a while. I've worked in it now for the last nearly 2 years, so I know it very, very well. And I think that's a big part of any kind of safe shooting. I'm in total of 30 years in, and I've not had an accident yet, and I've no intention of doing. I think I'm quite fastidious in the way I approach it and stuff. But yeah, thermal definitely helps in terms of a safety factor because you can just see so much more. There's a good example actually on the latest video using a new Hadbrock. So it's got the thermal and an optical channel, so you can actually see what it would look like effectively through a night vision scope, and all you can see is the fox, and you can see it's a fox. And if you had a set of crosshairs on, you'd think, oh, that's a good shot. As soon as I flick it over to the thermal channel, bang, straight away you can see there's a bungalow right behind the fox. I had to wait for it to come to the right. I knew the bungalow was there and I also knew that if it got as far as the pylon, it was then in line with the next house. So I thought it's got to be taken between the bungalow and the pylon, so it's safe. And that's where I took the shot. But if you only had night vision and you were lamping, you wouldn't have seen the bungalow, and you didn't know the land. You wouldn't have seen the obstacles that you needed to be aware of. So now I've kind of flipped. I firmly believe that kind of spotting and shooting with thermal is far safer, especially now that you can ID stuff a long way out. I could definitely ID a fox 500 yards with the thermals that we've got easy. So I don't think there's any excuses for saying thermals not safe. But yeah, so that's a long-winded answer, but that's how we get round it being so flat round here. Yeah. Look, we got nice soft clay soil putty to shoot into, and shoot wherever possible from an elevated position.
Ideal. Good answer. I'm
Yeah, I
unfortunately
mean,
that
we
old.
do have
I used
gradient.
to
It's not a
six
lot, but there is
inches is not
actually
a gradient.
yeah, there is a couple of fields that do rise up. But yeah, you know what the camera's like. The camera does flatten everything out, but yeah, it is particularly flat. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm old school where I used to learn to shoot rabbits lamping with acid motorbike battery in a bag on my back and a car spotlight with about 8 feet of wires.
Yeah, and you have
And
arms
you
and
hold the
shoulders
spotlight.
like
Yeah, you
Popeye
either hold the
because
spotlight
you're
on
so
its
strong.
side or like this and rest the rifle on your wrist, which is uncomfortable as hell, but it works.
Bloody hell! Yeah, 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 yeah. Interestingly enough, the very first time I went lamping was on an old pig farm in North Norfolk, and a friend of a friend had come round to my flat at the time and said I had a gun case resting in the corner. He said, "Oh, what's in the case?" It was a new air rifle at the time to me, and he said, "Oh, I used to go lamping," and I genuinely had never heard of this, and we're going back 20 odd years. And he said, "Oh yeah, we used to go lamping on a pig farm nearby." And he told me what he did, and I thought, that sounds great. He said, "Oh, we should go. I've not been for ages." And his kit was a bit knackered. He had an old tracer, I think it was, lamp that sat on top. He had a Theobin Rapid Mark One, and
Yeah.
I didn't have any lamping gear, so I fashioned a plastic wedge and some rubber bands, and I taped a torch to the top of my scope, and that was my first lamp. And I went lamping, and we got, I don't know, 8 or 10 rats maybe, and that was it. I was hooked. I saved up within a matter of weeks and bought myself a Logan gun lamp, as it was back then for my air rifle, and that's it. I changed rifles and upgraded the kit. I think I was probably one of the first people to start using night sight and figured out how to record on that. Um, yeah, and it was then I got into kind of watching a few people on YouTube, and I thought, do you know what? I reckon I could make a couple of videos. And that's what I did. I started recording some stuff. A lot of the really old, early stuff I've since taken down because it is shocking, um, embarrassingly so. But yeah, that's how I started. I started lamping with a torch on top, you know, and we're now shooting with scopes that are worth more than my shed.
A lot has changed in 15 years, Robin.
Yeah, do you know what? A lot's changed in 5 years, though, hasn't it? You think back, it has though. Even on if you look back
I know.
on my own videos, I think I've only been doing it for 7 years maybe, but even in that, yeah, in the last 5 years, stuff's really changed. Um, Something I was going to bring up with you. What do you think the future is of shooting? I'm quite keen to you've been in and around shooting longer than I have. Um, what do you genuinely think the future is like for the sport of shooting? And I'll be a little bit more specific. So I consider there to be three, possibly four categories of shooting. So um, there is the hunting factor. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, you're going out to shoot a deer for deer stalkers or maybe even paid stalkers. Vermin controllers, so farm protection of livestock and vermin,
Yeah.
and sporting shooting. So in particular, where do you see the future of those three factions of shooting?
Um, I can see with the sporting, whether it be clay or bird shooting, the way it's looking, I can see it going back to being elitist again. Um, what did I hear the other day? Someone had booked a day on the ducks, um, and normally the non-refundable deposit is if you, the shooter, don't bother turning up, the keeper gets to keep it, or the estate gets to keep it. He wasn't having any back because the shoot hadn't got the right amount of ducks and it cancelled. He's asked to be able to shoot pheasant or partridge on the shoot, and it's fallen on a deaf ear. And he was asking on a group what to do, and the consensus was you need to press for getting your money back. But I know of a gentleman. I think he's retired now. A very big businessman down in Cornwall. He was wanting 500 to 1,000 bird days every weekend without fail during the season. That takes some doing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but that, I mean,
Um,
there are estates that will accommodate that, and that I think for me that's a slightly worrying thing. Um, I don't think that paints the world of sporting shooting, shall we say, in a particularly good light. They're not doing anything illegal, not doing anything wrong, but I think morally maybe there's a slight case to answer there in terms of the impact that type of shoot would have on the ecology of the area. Um,
yeah,
for
I
one,
think it goes back to like more like the Victorians, where we just blast for blasting's sake,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think it's wrong. Now with the clay shooting, I think that's become a little bit elitist as well recently. I was
it's
invited
really
about
expensive,
two,
isn't
three
it?
years ago to go. Yeah, I couldn't afford to go. It was like a 90 bird day or something for the whole day. And it was like 400 or 500 quid. I couldn't do that.
Yeah,
For that amount of money, I could go to Mill Valley, buy 2 or 3 boxes of clays and a new thrower and a box of cartridges for myself.
yeah,
So that's gone. I'm friends with a few of the Cornish shooters, Denzel Grouse, Martin Elworthy, people like that. And they go 100 bird days, whatever, for target shooting. And I know it's all provided as part of the competition, but you couldn't afford it as a general member of the public to go and experience it.
no,
This is the problem. And the same as with stalking and stuff. That has gone a little bit on GT as well. I know the meat market's fallen through. So everyone's after as much bang for their buck as they can get with the larder market. But if you want to go stalking, what did I see the other day? Roebuck stalking. It was up round your way somewhere. It was £90 for the stalking. It was £3 or £4 a kilo for the meat if you wanted to keep the buck afterwards, plus a trophy fee of about 70 or 80 quid if you wanted to keep the head on top of that. Well, you're looking at
mm.
about 400 quid for a day stalking.
Yeah, yeah,
The average Joe who'd like to go and experience it can't afford that.
no. So I think so. Like
And I
me, then
understand the keeper's got money to spend, but
yeah. So I think like me, then you think that the the game shooting, because that's probably one of the ones I missed off in terms of the higher end pheasant shoots and stuff, along with deer stalking in terms of paid outings and stuff. You think that's it's almost been the working man has been priced out of that kind of that environment or that type of shooting. What about though
yeah,
from because I think I mean I've got some concerns I suppose for the future of shooting, especially given the fact we've now got a Labour government. But I mean I think if we follow on from what's happened in Wales, for example, where they've been pretty strict and you're not allowed to do this, that, and the other. You can't say boo to a goose nowadays. I genuinely just am a bit fearful for the kind of future of all types of shooting. But I have a theory that it might come in stages. So I think we will probably see the end of game shooting in terms of pheasants, etc., in my lifetime. Yeah, I don't think it'll happen overnight, but I do think it will. I do think I'll see it. Similarly with hunting deer and paid stalking. I think unless we do a really good job of um, talking about the sustainability of shooting and the venison market comes back to the masses, I think it's under grave danger of probably going under as well. The only one likely to survive, in my opinion, would be the target shooter or clay shooting and farm vermin control types of shoots, unless people step in and get involved a little bit more in the kind of promotion of the reason why we do bits and bobs behind it, but talk about the sustainability and get meat on the tables of people around the UK. I think it's really encouraging that Field Sports Britain covered the game larder story, the guy that's recently opened up a large, I think it was a deer processing plant. I forget where it was, but it was a fairly recent addition. You'd have to forgive me for not knowing the details off the top of my head, but
Uh,
do you know so they covered it a short time ago, where there was a guy that spent a lot of his own money creating a place somewhere. I think it was in Kent, where people could register and take shot deer, etc., and it would make its way into the food chain.
yeah, it was like a bit like a co-op, wasn't it? Type of thing.
Yeah, I think it was a cooperative. Yeah, yeah, but it invested heavily in it, and we need more people like that. We need people to be able to get in and get some investment into the industry. Otherwise, if it's not there, people can't see the other side to it, the other benefits to it. Then it's going to fall. It's going to fall to the bloody lefties, I think, because at the moment there's just too much pressure in terms of um, and if it goes too far the other way, you rightly said, if everyone gets priced out of it and it's only going to be elitist, that's only going to give them more ammunition. Um, excuse me 1 second. That's fine.
Well, I'll give you an example. I picked up a new shoot the other day. The crows are attacking the smallholders' lambs. I phoned up or text the owner a couple of days ago, all right to come up. And because they've had to diversify, they've got a couple of old shepherd huts they've converted to like glamping.
Yeah, yeah,
And the response came back, sorry, we've still got residents on the farm. Can you wait a bit longer? So I now can't get on there to shoot any vermin because I've been asked not to because they need to diversify to help the farm piggy bank save up. But they'll lose in the long run because I'm not there shooting. But you can't have it always. So even farm shooting, the way the diversification is going on farms, you might struggle to do that as well at some point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We actually have yeah, it's interesting because there's a need here in Lincolnshire. We're the sort of hotspot capital for hare coursing. At this, it will start very soon. It's kind of already started now, but whilst the legislation has got a lot tougher and the penalties for doing it are tougher. Um, it's still pretty rife. So we have vast quantities of hares. It's not uncommon to go out and see 50, 60 hares in one field of an evening. And when you grow salad crops, that's not good. So we do control
No.
hare numbers to quite large degrees. And it's not often publicised because it's quite contentious. There are large bits of the UK that have very few numbers in the way of hares, and that's fine. But for ourselves, they're worse than rabbits. They're twice the size of a bloody rabbit, and they eat a lot of stuff. So when we control the numbers, we need to do it in a way, and we are set up in this area to have the food go into the food chain. But you then find yourself with other hurdles. For example, you can't shoot hares on particular crops because certain crops go straight into the food chain unwashed, so they can't be, and they do residue testing and tracing and stuff like that. So you can't have blood and brain matter all over your crop. So then you get pressure from the farm heads to say, right, we've got big pest pressures in this field with either deer or rabbits, they need to be shot. And then you've got the technical department of the farm saying, well, you can't shoot them in the crop because because of contamination. So it's like double-edged sword. What do you do? And
Just
how do
use
you
copper
approach it?
bullets. It's fine.
Yeah. Because copper bullets don't spray brains everywhere.
But they're safe brains. It's copper bullets.
Yeah. At least the rain's going to wash it off at the moment. That's one thing. Yeah.
I don't do that what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
No. 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 But yeah, no. I just thought I wanted to kind of gauge what what you thought the kind of future of shooting. And do you have any concerns about the type of shooting that I'm involved in? I suppose as well.
Um, I was going to go on to that. I know you're a country boy, but you're a news shooter, as we'll call it. Now, we've seen, as you know, we had the Diary magazine for almost, well, just over a decade till the servers decided to come smartly to attention. We noticed an increase in what we call town hunters, which is Bob and Dave. They live towns, edge of the city. They take up air rifle shooting, go and see a local farmer. He says, "Here, I got a fox that's a problem. Can you boys deal with it? Hold on." And a few months later, they get a firearm certificate. That's not a problem. 2-2 rimfire, 223, 243, whatever. And because I suppose there's more money in the towns, they can afford, I suppose, want a word, a better choice of gear, um, higher end stuff, the thermals and everything else, and you end up with an increase of shooters that aren't, how can I put this without upsetting everyone?
Not
Country
capable.
FA. Well, I go out into the field. If I don't shoot anything, I'm quite happy because I spent the best part of 3 or 4 hours, like your gamekeeper friend, reading the land.
Yeah.
Do tracking and everything else. I was taught a young lad, Scott. You might have seen him on my social media last couple of years shooting. I got him tracking a road track through one of my shoots. And he looked behind him, and I was about 50, 60 yards. And next thing, I'm tapping him on the shoulder. Scared the seven bells of crap out of him. He's like, "How the hell did you get from over there to over here so quick?" I said, "That's one of the things I can do." And he said, "But you didn't make any sound." I said, "No, because I've trained myself not to make any sound." But I've dedicated, I'm a couple of years off 50, so I've spent a very long time in the field learning how the animals move, what they do, what they eat, etc., etc. And I fear there's a lot of, I refer again, town shooters who just come out, blast, have a good time, and carry on. You see it very often with pigeon shooters. Oh, farmer's upset. He's kicked everyone off the land because Bob came out and he shot 50 pigeons, threw them in a ditch, or left them on the edge of a field to rot. And now they've gone through the
Yeah.
combine and in the baler and all that. And it's the non-countryside mentality. I think Jack Hargreaves summed it up that by the time he's gone on, the countryside will be filled with people that should never have come that far out of town.
Yeah.
If that makes
You
sense,
raise a
yeah.
Yeah, no, you raise an interesting point about a certain ilk of people being able to afford the sort of high level kit and then come out and give it a go. Because I think I've definitely seen an increase in the last maybe 4 or 5 years in particular of foxes that are all of a sudden vehicle shy and stuff. Because we've got plenty of people in
Yeah.
this area that go out shooting and stuff, but I think they do it more of a hobby. So they're not what I would call
Are you getting
they're
foxes that are IR light guys?
not necessarily IR light shot. I mean, I've not been using IR lights for the last couple of years. I've been full thermal for a couple of years now, but we've certainly got foxes that are vehicle shy, and I think there's probably a combination of education through poor fieldcraft. So you've got people that will just rock up. They might shine a lamp on. They might be using night vision, but either way, they're probably taking shots from vehicles, and that's educating them. And similarly to the issue that we have in terms of hare coursing, we do have people. I've seen them. I've come across them of an evening where they're running dogs at night time under a lamp. So and of course, if you've had a fox that's had a pair of dogs run on it under a lamp, the first thing they would have probably heard was the vehicle pull up, and that's what they associate. So as soon as they hear a vehicle, bang, that fox is gone.
Yeah.
So there has been an increase in that of that kind of activity over the last few years. I can only hope that the legislation that seemingly got tougher is used. I know we have a pretty piddly number of officers on duty after a certain time of the evening. So again, hopefully that will increase. But yeah, we definitely had that. So yeah, we've had issues with that in the past. But then at the same time, both the keepers being out. Rick started going out quite a bit by himself now because he's borrowed one of my thermals. He seems to have it on long-term loan. Then with us being out, he goes out midweek. I go out at the weekends. The area is pretty well covered at night, so there's an extra pair of eyes. We caught a couple of poachers a few weeks ago shooting ducks with an air rifle on one of our ponds. So I got a picture. I was actually on the Kazi, and Rick texted me a picture of two blokes in the spinney with an air rifle. He said, "I just had this come through on the trail camera." I said, "Oh right, that's interesting." So yeah.
Do you use trail cameras on about trail cameras?
Yeah, we've got five or six on the go. Yeah, and we use them for multiple reasons. We have a lot of reservoirs in and around the area for the potatoes and other things, and the banks get dug into frequently. So we'll often set up just to see what it is. We don't have too many badgers in this area, so if we get a freshly dug out hole, usually it's a vixen either setting up or moving cubs.
Yeah.
Again, with thick, heavy clay soil, we're quite near the marsh, so we've got heavy clay silt land. It's not, and it's flat. They don't tend to like it like that. So when you've got a banked reservoir, it's somewhere for them to dig into. So yeah, we put cameras out there. We've got multiple spinneys, often next to the game covers. So we put trail cams up near the pens to make sure that the birds are secure. And we install them discreetly in places if we think we might have poachers making their way into and onto the farm. So yeah, and we use them for multiple reasons. So I mean, I've got one on my squirrel box at the moment, so I know what time to go and shoot the squirrel feeder. So I'm setting that up for in a couple of weeks' time. I think they're an awesome tool, and certainly the new ones now, which ping you a text straight away. That's a great technological advancement that's again relatively new. But I'm a big believer in tech. The retailer I worked for was a very well known large electronics retailer, and I've been used to kind of utilising technology for good reasons and good purposes, and I think that's why I get on so well with the thermal stuff. And I was again quite early on with the night vision stuff. You could see how you could use it to your advantage and in a very practical sense. So yeah, I'm a big believer in it. Use it to its full potential and advantage.
I've got the night sight. I've got the ATN Excite Original, which weighs about 25 pounds in weight. I've got the Part 007 and the Part 008. With both parts, I've had to, in the rubber eye cups, fit an infrared filter, a little purple filter you see on eBay for cameras to help reduce the glare. Do you have that problem with thermals?
No, no, you don't. The No, because you simply turn the brightness and the contrast down to suit to suit your own eye. The very latest one that I've got, the new Stellar 3, that's actually got a new colour palette on it called monochrome green. Um, in fact, yesterday, I think it was last night, Scott Country, they used a couple of the clips. I did a little intro for them, filmed here in my man cave, and you'll see on there that's got some monochrome green. I'm sure it's called monochrome green. I should know really, but that makes it look like a night vision sight. And the thermal picture's that bloody good. It honestly just looks like an NV picture. But that's really easy on the eye at night time. In the daytime, you can use all the other color palettes you like. But this new one, this monochrome green, I'm a big fan of that, just because it is that little bit easier on the eye. If it's nice and dark outside and you're looking into a nice bright tube, then it can be
Yeah,
quite sharp on the eye. So yeah, that monochrome green, it's a nice kind of compromise in terms of not being too bright, not too dark. You can still see the detail and all the rest of it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. So no, I don't have that trouble so much.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other problem we used to have is if we were shooting, say, over a hedge into the next field, you get like a bit of weed or grass stick up and you get
Whiteout. Yeah.
feedback coming off the IR. Does thermal just cut through that, or does it see it and just like ignore it, or
No,
how
just
does
cut
thermal work?
straight.
I've used a lot of thermal.
Yeah, no, just cut straight through it. Yeah, cut straight through.
Yeah.
No glare back at all. So it's a really valid point. Years ago when I was using a night sight all the time, again around here, it's not uncommon. You could see you're from the Land Rover, you might see a fox a couple of fields away. You've got two dikes in between you and the fox, and if there are reeds in the way, you'd have that. You'd have your reeds sort of wafting in the wind, and you'd see them going back and forth on the sight picture, and just loads of IR light bouncing back off them. So whereas now, yeah, with thermal, you'd see them, but there's no glare back or nothing because there's no reflection coming back. You simply see in
Right.
infrared rays of light, which is being picked up by the thermal detector. So yeah, it's really clever stuff. Really clever stuff. I just think anyone that does a lot of shooting, like I do, and other professionals or semi-professionals, I think once they've had it, there's no way you could go back. Not nights like when the new Alpex came out, even the 4K. They said, "Oh, Robin,
Yeah.
we really need you to go and get some fox footage," and I was just like, "Nope, it's not happening." I said, "I'm not going to take off a thermal scope off my foxing rifle." I said, keeper rings me up and says, "I've got a fox problem, need to go and get it sorted." I'm not going out with something that's simply not as good and it's not to say the Alpex or any other day-night scope isn't very good, because they're all great, but if you've had a thermal scope and you're proficient with it, I don't think anything can touch it. You can just pick
No.
your target out far quicker. I've been out with, again, the same chap. He came down a couple of years ago, and when I first started using thermal scopes, we're in the same field together. I'm sat up on my sticks, and I watch this fox come in the field, and you can see him searching for it in his scope. He's like moving around because he had a narrower field of view, and unlike a thermal, your night vision, if a fox isn't looking at you, for example, its coat is not really reflective, so he's searching around for this set of eyes looking at him, and the fox is looking the other way trying to figure out where the sound's coming from. I can see the fox like a shining beacon of light. It just stands out so well, and that's where and why thermal is so much better than using night vision. So although I have to say, I have enjoyed, a good friend of mine, David, he's got a YouTube channel, Predator Protection UK. He has gone back to using the Alpex for foxing more recently, and I must say I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed seeing that set of eyes come bounding across the field, because that used to give me such a rush. I mean, shot scores and scores and scores of the things, but every time I had one coming into the call, even now, really, you can see it bounding across the field. It definitely gets the pulse racing. But yeah, I've missed that, and I kind of said as much in my recent film because the new spotter I've got has an optical channel as well as a thermal channel, so you can flick it over to a night vision channel and see the fox coming. So you can see a big shine of eyes coming back. And I actually said in that video, I've actually missed this. I've missed seeing that big pair of eyes come bounding across the field into range. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for night vision stuff. So, do you see
So
yourself going
now
thermal at
you're
any time?
sorry.
Sorry, I said, do you see yourself going thermal at any time? You know, you're intrigued by
Um,
it, or is it?
I
It's
would like a
expensive. That's
thermal spotter. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It is. But
If I had the
it's getting
money,
cheaper
I'd
all the
go and
time.
buy. Yeah. If I had the money, I'd go and buy a thermal spotter unit, something like the Hick Micro or something like that. Purely because I can see all the advantages of it. So the wife, bless her, oh, what do you want crap like that for? But it covers all types of shooting and everything else as well. I saw a post the other day, someone, oh, I think I've got a broken tile. Does anybody know how to check? Well, the easiest way is a thermal spotter and look at the roof and you'll soon tell if there's a tile knackered in there.
Yeah. It's it. Yeah, you can see. When I first got one, I used it to see where my heat was escaping from the house. And I could tell that I had a window seal. I could tell I had a window seal that had gone because you could see the heat peeing out from it. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. I think if I was to give advice to somebody, you know, looking to get into it, I mean, there's the great thing is with so much new stuff coming out, and it really has the pace of new launches and stuff, as you well know, over the last 18 months has been ridiculous. And even this year alone, in 2024, we have seen the introduction of, we could probably name what, 5 brands that have come on the market that weren't around. You know, I mean, even Hick Micro, however you wish to say it, they weren't around more than 3 years ago. And look at where they're positioned now in the marketplace. You know, it was dominated by one brand, and it's now sort of you know, one of many, isn't it? So the great thing with that is it's made other thermal stuff and some of the earlier stuff more accessible to those who otherwise would never have been
yeah.
able to afford it. You can pick up a bloody good spotter for £1,000 or less, which is within reach of a good proportion of people. They might have to save up for it, they might have to borrow a bit for it, but it's achievable. If you want it bad enough, it's achievable. And I think once you've got it, you put yourself at such a big advantage. You know, and if you're still shooting with night vision, you're absolutely right. The best thing to do is to get yourself a thermal spotter first. You know, don't
Yeah.
bankrupt yourself and go all out for the all singing, all dancing, because you simply don't need it. If you're only shooting rats and rabbits, yeah, £1,000 or even less than that, 800 quid will get you a perfectly good spotter for the job in this day and age.
I think if you take what is currently the 800 quid range and you can get it sub 400 quid as a company, I think you'll be laughing all the way to the bank because you'll have um, us poorer shooters for one thing, air rifle shooters who can't warrant 800-900 quid because they just spent that on an air rifle, and general people, I think it would be good for as well. When night vision first came out as digital, there was a huge influx of, um, I suppose, animal lovers out there buying night vision and like night vision binoculars when they came out from China and stuff, so they could go and sit in their woods and watch foxes and badgers playing and bats flying and all this sort of stuff because it was then affordable to the general public. And I think once thermal gets to that point, the market will be incredible with it. But at the moment, it's still just out of reach of most man's pocket, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're probably another 18. You're probably another 18 months off, maybe 2 years in terms of I think
Yeah,
seeing what you would consider to be good quality thermal in that £500 bracket. Not to say that it's not available now. You might find someone who's selling a thermal cheap. I've seen some good deals, and that's another good thing. We talk about technology advancing and helping. Even the introduction of, a lot of people hate Facebook and stuff. I've only ever really used it to my advantage. I've had plenty of negative type stuff over the years from it and so on and so forth, but I certainly don't concentrate on that. But one of the big positives from me that from that social media platform is things like Scope Shack and Scope Bay. There are two sort of Facebook groups that are
yeah,
really good. So whenever I've needed to offload scopes to be able to purchase new kit, I don't get it all for free, contrary to common belief. I am a very lucky guy. I do get um, offered a lot of stuff, and I have been fortunate. I've been given a lot of good stuff to use and try and shoot with and stuff. But at the same time, I have spent thousands of my own pounds, much to my partner's disgust, lack of family holidays, and so on and so forth. I have spent a lot of my own money on kit over the years to be able to try it, succeed with it, fail with it, to find out what works and what doesn't work for me. So and all of that, the scope bays and stuff, they're great places to be able to purchase that next venture and even just ask some advice.
yeah,
We're all still learning. I've learned loads off of following people online and stuff. When I got into foxing, there was a gentleman who, God bless him, actually passed away uh, in January. Mark Brannan. He created a Facebook group of fox shooters called Foxing. That's all, and he was really helpful to me in my kind of early days in ventures into the foxing world and stuff. Really helpful guy, really
yeah,
knowledgeable, and would spend. We attended a couple of shows years ago now at Birmingham when I first started hosting the shows at Birmingham. We sat in the pub afterwards and we spoke for hours and hours about what works, what. And I was just really interested. I wanted to learn and soak up as much information as I can, and that was just a place that people went to discuss how to do it, what to do, what's working, what's not working, what lamps do you use and stuff. And then when night vision kicked off, it was just a great forum to be able to share information and stuff. So I think Facebook is brilliant for that kind of thing. And that very much keeps what we do alive. And talked about, I'm a little bit fearful
yeah,
sometimes for the future of shooting. I think if we stick together, there's another point I'll raise in a second. But yeah, if we stick together as a community and we continue to share and we're happy to bring new people in and take people under our wings and share some knowledge and experience, then it has a bright future. But if we don't, and if we continue to pick people apart and belittle and berate others, then it's quite sad if we allow that to happen. I have experienced in this last week, actually, from posting about some of the new kit I've been using. I've experienced from somebody who's quite well known and supposedly is in the industry to be able to sell products and stuff, some quite unnecessary comments that were aimed clearly to get a rise and to just essentially just be a bit of a dick. And there's absolutely no need for it. If that's how he wants to get his kicks, then well, fair enough. Good luck to the guy. But
yeah.
at the same time, there's a bit of me that just wants to say, "What the friggin' hell do you think you're doing, man?" We're all in the same game. We're all here to kind of help promote and make sure people can get on and what have you. And to me, there's no need for it. We're not children. We're not a primary school, but so there is that side to it as well. I've certainly had my fair share of social media hate, mail and stuff like that. I've had people wishing my daughter had cancer and all that sort of stuff in the past. So there's some pretty horrible, nasty individuals out there. But I do think on the whole, the communities that we've got and we build on, like Mark's page, Foxing That's All,
Yeah.
are generally for the greater good. But it's definitely up to us to ensure we help police it, promote the right things, and kind of stamp on the things that are there to kind of hinder it. You know.
Yeah. So going back to the thermal and the foxing, if it's me, I know roughly which area Charlie's going to be in. Oh, excuse me. And so I will go set up a cooler and then set up myself 100 yards away, normally 60 yards away, depends on conditions, what it's like. Whack the cooler going, and then I'm scanning. Normally I use the either a head torch or the 007 as a scanner, and then keep 008 on 223. And then eventually Charlie hopefully turns up, and that's the end of that problem. So using thermal, do you do the same, or do you not call anymore, or do you just actively stand on the highest points and go, "Oh, he's over there," and keep walking till you find him, or how do you do it, Robin?
So we've got two main approaches. First one is we will pull up in an area because we've been shooting the area for a good number of years, and there are, as you will know, there are areas where foxes just tend to magnetise to. There are certain areas of the farm where we go to, we're quite confident if we're going to see foxes, that's where it's going to be. And similarly, there are areas of the farm we know just for some reason they don't have the right you know necessities to sustain life. That's where we're not going to see any foxes. No food there, no water, no foxes. Um, so to that degree, we will pull up and we will put the caller on. So first of all, I'll use the electronic call, and I'll vary the call depending on the time of year. So at this time of year, lots of stubble fields still around. So I'll use rodent distress calls. I'll use rabbit distress. That's nearly always my first call. And then as we get towards the end of October, November time, the fox mating call tends to really come into its own. So I think using the right calls at the right time of year is something that you learn. Again, you can get advice and hints and tips, and what works in one area might not necessarily work in another. I've always advocated never being afraid to change the call. The last video I put up this week had me calling in 4 foxes into the same field using 4 different calls. So just because one fox comes into one call and you've had that going for a few minutes doesn't mean you're not going to get other foxes coming in. So
No.
we will put the call on, and if that's not working, I'll lip squeak or even mouth call. Again, it's just 2 different calls to use. And then we also do a fair amount of driving around. We cover a fair amount of land. The particular farm that I work on is a little over 2,000 acres. But we also have the neighbouring 2 farms, which is well in excess of 8,000 acres. So you could drive round a fair chunk of land just scanning, and we will only scan with thermals. So both the driver and myself are scanning with thermals. The keeper's got a hole cut in the Land Rover, so I'm in the back of the 110 Land Rover, and I'll literally come out of the hatch and scan as I'm going around, so I can see 360. He's obviously got a much narrower field of view, but he's also got to keep his eye on where he's going at the same time, and that's what we'll do. So we'll often stumble across foxes as we're driving around. And there is a third method as well, which is sometimes the call doesn't work, but you have seen a fox, and sometimes that fox is a little way off. So I'll get the sticks. I've used the Recon sticks for quite a while now. Super stable. I'll see a fox, try a bit of call, lip squeaking, mouth squeaking, or I'll see a fox heading in a certain direction. I'll decide not to call, and I'll try and head it off. So I'll walk. There might not be an accessible place, so I'll just walk into it. Wait for the fox to come to me, or I'll walk, get close to the fox if its attention is elsewhere. I've shot foxes that are mating before. That's quite an attention that tends to have their attention focused on something else. I've stalked into foxes that are busy stalking rodents or rabbits and other things. So yeah, it's those three methods really. So walking and stalking in reverse order, driving around and stumbling across them in sort of known locations. But the most productive way is to pull up and call, but all while scanning around with thermal. And the other good thing is with the thermal. So with a lamp, you have to have the fox ideally looking at you because you're looking for that eye shine. But
Yeah.
with the thermal, you can see it if it's laying down, walking away from you. There's just isn't really any escaping that. So you'll see a lot more stuff, with thermal.
We have quite a bit down this way of released foxes. Do you suffer from that of your way or not?
I would say no, but at the same time, I've had instances going back a few years now where, and less frequently now, maybe they've stopped releasing them if they know who's in the area. I don't know, but I think there was a time a few years ago, quite close to here, that maybe did have some releasing happening because I've definitely come across fields before where I've pulled in. I think at the time we were still lamping, but uh, either way, we pulled in and there were just foxes that didn't behave how you would expect foxes to behave. I think I've become quite proficient at reading foxes' behaviour, having spent countless hours in the field, having spent countless hours calling them in, watching them, and I'm always learning. I'm always conscious of what that fox is doing. I know if it's going to come in or not. But these were just stupid. And for me, I've never found any yet that have had repair work. You know, I've seen plenty on forums where they've clearly had surgical procedures and they've had stitches or
Yeah.
wounds that have healed and have had definite human intervention. I've not had that round here. So that's the only thing and I've shot hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So that's the only thing that makes me believe we perhaps don't. But there was a time, a few years back now, where we had some that they just didn't behave like wild country foxes. There's no
Yeah.
great big built-up towns in my area, so we've got little villages, and we're quite backward here in South Lincolnshire. We don't even have wheelie bins. So like tonight, I've put the bin bags out at the end of the drive. So we will have town foxes that will come in and raid people's bin bags. If it's not the cats, then yeah, we'll have foxes that will strewn crap all over the street and stuff. So they get fed that way.
Hold on to
We're not finished.
it. Well, just about. Well, Robin, it's been lovely talking to you, but my role as a parent is calling to me. I can hear him. He's only
Yes,
two, bless
yeah.
him, and he's doing a couple of days at nursery, and I think he's doing a little too much for a 2-year-old. But
Bless him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much for your
yes,
time. I apologise to anybody in advance for waffling. That is a nasty habit of mine. But I could talk
we
about
like waffling. It's how the
I,
world turns.
I could talk about all sorts all night really. Yeah. Having said that, it is probably past my bedtime because I'm normally in bed before 10 o'clock. Definitely.
Oh yes,
I know you said to
you
me,
lightweight.
how do you manage to go out foxing when you go to bed too early? Well, that's yeah. So farming means you get up early. So I'm normally midweek. I'm normally in bed before 10 o'clock. Yeah, usually it's somewhere between 9 and 1/2 past actually. And then I typically go out foxing on a Friday and a Saturday night if I'm allowed. If it's on my farm, I'll go out midweek and I'll say to the boss, I'm out shooting for the keeper, and he'll let me go in a bit later. So I do get a school night pass sometimes. So
Ideal. Right, well, it's
good.
been a pleasure chatting to you, young man, and bid
And
you
to
good
you, Greg,
night.
thank you. Yes, indeed. All right, take care.
Thanks for watching, folks. And if you're listening or watching on any of the social medias, nice to have you back.